if the hero we've been rooting for becomes the villain? Here's every terrifying way 11 could turn evil in Season 5. Let's leave the current possibilities of 11 becoming a bad person aside for a second. Talk about the biggest plot twist we would never have expected and how it could make 11 turn evil, because this one is dark and it cuts deep. Imagine finding out that everything you believed about your mother, everything you fought for, and every memory you held onto was a lie, and that's exactly what could happen if the show reveals the truth about Terry Ives and her real role in 11's story. Here's the twist. Perhaps Terry didn't lose 11 to Brenner in some tragic kidnapping. Maybe she voluntarily gave her up because she was terrified of what her daughter could become. The narrative we've been sold is that Terry was this brave mother fighting to save her child from the evil lab. But what if that's only half the truth? And the real story is that Terry saw the full, cataclysmic, destructive power inside 11's mind and made the impossible choice to surrender her to Brenner, not to save Elle, but to contain the threat she represented. Terry wasn't a victim trying to rescue her daughter. She was a parent so scared of her own child that she sacrificed her to the lab to protect the world. And if 11 discovered this through some lucid confession or hidden memory, it would shatter everything, because the very first person she ever loved rejected her for being a monster. Now, you might be thinking, this goes against everything we know, and you're right, but here's how the writers could make it work and turn it into the most mind-blowing twist in the entire series. Imagine the memories 11 accessed in Season 2 when she connected with Terry's mind weren't real. They could have been falsified or planted by Terry's own psychic ability and not by Brenner. The real reveal would be that Terry had her own powers and she had visions of the future, visions of the upside down, consuming the entire world because of 11. And she realized her daughter was a world-ending threat, so she willingly left Elle with Brenner, believing he was the only one who could contain that power and keep humanity safe. The break-in at Hawkins' lab and the brutal electroshock therapy that left Terry catatonic. But that could have just been an elaborate performance orchestrated by Terry's own fractured mind to cement her victim status and protect 11's true identity from herself, because Terry knew that if Elle ever found out the real reason she was given up, it would destroy her. The wow factor here is that 11 realizes her mother's actions were the ultimate tragic sacrifice. Terry didn't give her up because she didn't love her. She gave her up because she loved the world more, and she was willing to destroy her own mind and become a vegetable to keep that secret buried forever. And that discovery, that realization that she was sacrificed for the greater good, and that even her own mother saw her as a monster who needed to be locked away, that's what finally tips 11 into darkness. Because if the one person who was supposed to love you unconditionally chose the world over you, then why should you choose the world over yourself? And that's how Terry Ives' betrayal could be the catalyst that turns 11 evil. Looking at it another way more clearly, even if Terry did willingly give 11 away with good intentions, the entire plan backfired catastrophically because of one fatal flaw, and that flaw was Brenner himself. If Terry was indeed psychic and foresaw 11's world-ending potential and surrendered her to Brenner for containment as a twisted form of protecting humanity, then she made the worst miscalculation possible, because Brenner didn't see 11 as a bomb to be stored away safely. He saw her as a weapon to be unleashed and exploited. Terry might have trusted Brenner to contain Elle's power, but Brenner's ego and ambition turned that trust into a nightmare, because he saw Terry's surrender as confirmation of the child's immense value. And instead of keeping 11 locked down, he pushed her to her absolute limits for espionage, for war, for attacking the Russian general. And it was Brenner's relentless exploitation that forced 11 to breach the dimensional barrier and make contact with the Demogorgon, which opened the first gate and set the entire upside-down invasion in motion. So, if Terry surrendered 11 to prevent the apocalypse, she actually caused it, because her desperate choice put all that power directly into the hands of the man who would abuse it the most. And that is the ultimate irony. This becomes truly compelling because it doesn't entirely erase those Season 2 flashbacks, it just recontextualizes them in the darkest way possible. The electroshock therapy still happened, but not because Terry was trying to rescue 11. That was just the memory she wanted Elle to see and believe. The real reason it happened was because Terry found out that Brenner was exploiting her daughter and turning her into the exact weapon she feared, so she tried to kill him to stop him from destroying the world with 11, and she failed. Elle realizes her mother wasn't just a helpless victim. She was a failed assassin, and her final act of love was attempting to murder Papa to save the world from the monster he was creating out of her own child. But at the end of the day, these makes 11 become evil. Next, we need to talk about the Kali factor, and how 11's connection to 8 could be the tipping point that sends her into complete darkness. Because remember Kali from Season 2, the girl who taught 11 that anger could be power and vengeance could be justice. Now imagine 11 loses someone major, someone she can't live without, like Hopper or Mike or Will, and the grief and rage are so overwhelming that she can't handle it anymore. And in that moment of complete devastation, she seeks out Kali again, but this time, she doesn't just visit, she fully embraces everything Kali stands for. Callie doesn't need to brainwash 11 or manipulate her because the pain is already there, and all Callie does is validate it. She tells 11 that the anger she's feeling is right and justified, and that pure vengeance is the only thing that can stop the trauma from consuming her. And 11, who's spent years trying to be good and protect everyone, finally hears someone tell her that it's okay to let go and destroy the people who hurt her. And she listens. She stays with Callie and that temporary family we saw in Season 2, and she learns to kill without hesitation, to see enemies everywhere, and to believe that mercy is weakness and violence is survival. When 11 finally returns to Hawkins, she's not the same person anymore. She comes back with the ruthless, cynical mindset of a killer, and she views the world through Callie's lens, where the deaths of thousands, or even the elimination of anyone who gets in her way, including military forces or former allies, are just acceptable losses for the greater good. 11 convinces herself that she's still protecting people, but now protection means annihilation, and anyone who questions her methods or tries to stop her becomes the enemy. And that shift from hero to executioner is what makes the Callie factor so dangerous, because it gives 11 the philosophical justification she needs to burn the whole world down and call it salvation. Another one is the ultimate possession, and this one is different. Because Vecna doesn't need to take over 11's body, he goes straight for her soul and consciousness in the void. Imagine 11 is in the void searching for Vecna or trying to fight him mentally, and instead of attacking her, he offers her a deal, and it's the most intoxicating, tempting offer she could ever receive. The ability to fix all the trauma she's experienced and lived through. The power to rewrite history and save everyone she's lost, like her mom, Benny and Eddie and Bob, and bring them all back and undo every painful memory that's ever haunted her. 11 is exhausted from years of fighting and losing people and grieving, and the idea of finally being able to make it all right is too powerful to resist. So she takes the deal without fully understanding the cost, and the moment she accepts Vecna doesn't just give her power, he takes control of her consciousness from the inside, and she becomes a hyper-powered puppet who genuinely believes she's creating a perfect reality when really, she's just serving Vecna's agenda. The twisted part is 11 thinks she's saving everyone, but in her new deranged state, she views her friends as obstacles because they don't understand her vision, and they keep trying to stop her from fixing everything. She sees Mike and Will and Max and Hopper as threats to the perfect world she's building, and she's willing to eliminate them if that's what it takes to preserve her new reality. And the scariest thing is she's doing it all as a form of twisted self-preservation. Because if she admits the deal was a lie and lets go of this fantasy, then she has to face all the trauma and loss again, and she can't survive that. So she keeps serving Vecna, convincing herself that she's the hero when really she's become his most dangerous weapon. And that's how Vecna wins, by giving 11 exactly what she wanted and turning her into the villain. The last mind-blowing twist would be something that completely changes everything. We thought we knew about 11 is the illusion of power, and this one is absolutely terrifying, because what if 11's abilities were never really hers to begin with? Think about it. We've always assumed that her psychic powers are natural, that she was born special and Brenner just enhanced what was already there, but what if that's not true at all? And what if her immense abilities are not organic, but are actually the product of something far more sinister channeling through her body? Here's the theory. 11's true psychic power is minimal. Maybe she had a tiny spark of telepathy or telekinesis as a child, but nothing close to what she can do now, and the real source of her strength comes from the Upside Down itself, feeding energy directly into her through a microscopic organism or device that was planted inside her, either by Brenner in the lab or even worse, by Vecna/Henry Creel when he was still 001, back when she was in the womb or during early childhood. This means every time 11 uses her powers, she's not drawing from herself, she's drawing from the Upside Down, and she's been a conduit this entire time without even knowing it. Now imagine what happens when the Upside Down fully merges with Hawkins in Season 5. That organism or device inside her doesn't just give her power anymore, it takes full control of her psyche, and she becomes an involuntary biological extension of the Upside Down's hive mind. 11 stops being 11 and starts being a puppet for the entity that's been fueling her abilities all along. And the scariest part is she might not even realize it's happening at first, because the transition could be gradual. Her thoughts could start blending with the hive mind's will, and she'd justify every violent, destructive action as her own choice, when really she's being controlled from the inside out. This is mind-blowing because it means 11 was never the hero who defeated the monsters. She was the Trojan horse that let them in, and every gate she opened, every time she used her powers to fight the Upside Down, she was actually strengthening the connection and feeding the very thing she thought she was destroying. Her entire identity as the powerful protector was built on a lie, and once she discovers that her abilities were never hers and that she's been a weapon for the enemy, the entire time that revelation could shatter her so completely that she stops fighting the hive mind's control and just lets it take over. Because if she was always meant to be the monster, then why keep pretending to be anything else? And that's how the illusion of power becomes the reason 11 turns evil. So, which twist do you think could possibly happen? Drop yours in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.